That's James's salad today. Some blackberries.
For dessert.
We've been meaning to get to this, but we haven't gotten to it for some reason. So that's the lineup. And
we're not necessarily. Are we going to do it in the soda? I don't know. No, because you might want to talk about it.
I think I will. I'll put me in the frame so that maybe I will talk about it. How's that? Because I actually would have put Celtic Women on top, and James did not. He thought it should be second. But anyway.
Well, this had the music, but it also had people talking about things and stuff like that. It had background. Whereas they didn't have stuff like that here.
So. They did on the extras. So I watched the extras too. I woke up in the middle of the night at 2:30 in the morning. I decided to watch Celtic Women. I watched the extras, so that's how I know. So I watched about that. But anyway, James is eating a salad that is partially from our garden today. Not the tomatoes, but in
much of the greens.
We bought a lot of different, I think it was 3 or 4 different brands of peat moss to try out this year, and some of them came with weeds in them, which like weed seeds, right? So when I planted them, I'm like, because I know I didn't plant the weed seeds, they're inside my house, and yet here they were, and I was like, huh. And so anyway, one of the things that came up was chickweed, and it's quite common in moister places, but I have never seen chickpea growing. It's never grown in my garden here or James's garden here. But one thing nice about chickweed is it's edible. And so there it was in the peat bells. And if you're into organic gardening, then you know that the peat bales are for organic gardening. So that's totally healthy. James got some chickweed that's for his salad, and I just let it. I was watching it in the bale grow, and in the peat bale row in the part of the Victory Garden. And I thought about pulling it out, and I was like, no way, because I know it's edible, so why not grow it? So I waited until it started blooming, and then I'm like, okay, now you have to go, because I don't want its seeds. So James got a lot of chickweed. And also, I was weeding this morning, and I accidentally pulled out a little bit of parsley leaf, flat leaf parsley from the garden, and some lettuce that I had given up on the lettuce. I didn't think it was going to come up, and that's why I planted tomatoes in that part, because I planted a whole bunch of greens, and the greens were on this side, and the tomatoes were just going to be on that side, and some in the peat bell in front. But then I decided, okay, well, I don't think the greens are going to do so well, so that's it. I've made a decision. It's just going to be tomatoes. So, because I had lots of tomatoes and to find homes for anyway. So anyway, and then I put some quinoa, which I cooked with chili peppers and kaffir lime leaves, and yeah, so it tastes good. Along with, so I thought maybe because the salad, James found the potato salad too strong, so I thought, okay, well, I'll put this other salad stuff, and then he can just eat it together, and then it won't be too strong. Right? Anyway, so I guess I'll get talking about the stuff. So this, I have a couple comments about this that, I should get, I wrote down some stuff actually, so I should look at that while I'm talking about it. So yeah, I just happened to be sitting down and making notes about my videos from the dinosaur hike that we did, Dinosaur Provincial Park. And then I was looking at this and, listening to it really more than anything, but looking every once in a while, I'd be like, I was wondering when we were listening to this on the way back from Dinosaur Provincial Park, and we went through it, almost twice through.
True.
Yeah. It's the first time, man, a lot of the time, the voices and, the people playing the instruments, everyone was doing such a great job. I felt overwhelmed, it was just like, wow, it's so amazing to hear such talent. This is a live film during their sold out concert at the Helix Centre in Dublin, Ireland. And I can see why that was sold out. This was amazing how professionally done this was. Everybody really knew their stuff. There was some serious talent here. And like a few times there were a few songs that I liked most of all. Let's see. The Butterfly. I loved how the woman with the fiddle danced with her fiddle, and James liked that too. He was commenting because I was listening to this in the van, and he was watching it right while I was driving. And it's funny because he was telling for a long time he was like, "What's with all these hot cars?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" You know, because I wasn't normally I don't really notice cars anyway, because how many women do? But I was just busy driving, right? And I did notice that there was a fair amount of oncoming traffic on the road, whereas there hadn't been going to Dinosaur. It had been like we were the only ones on the road. But so anyway, but yeah, there was something going on there, and James figures must have been a rally or some sort of thing because there. But eventually, I did notice. You know, he'd point them out, and then and he'd be like, "Okay, count how many there are in a row," and
Generally, it's 4 in a row.
Or in a group.
Well,
And
it seemed to last for an hour or more.
yeah, but
And they seemed
also,
to
I
be
mean,
5 or so minutes apart.
but there were so many fancy cars, so he was right. There was,
Yeah.
but he noticed that I don't. Anyway,
But
and
they were all fancy in the same way. They were built with racing trim. There were no old-fashioned Rolls Royces.
no, I guess, yeah. So anyway, I was thinking, well, I'm just, paying attention to where I am on the road, and make sure there's no deer jumping out or something like that, right? And I don't really notice what the vehicles look like or anything like that are, I just, for the most part, unless they're doing something really crazy that makes me really pay attention to them or something. But
Well, I still remember the blue car that passed us on solid in front of some of those rally cars.
okay, yeah, that was crazy. That
Because it was
person
blue.
very
I remember
memorable.
that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I know. There were
That guy was a scumbag.
Yeah.
Should be in jail.
Yeah. So anyway, plus I was listening to this, and I was listening very closely to this because I was really liking it. There's some of the music not so much for me. It sounded a little bit like Disney stuff or whatever. The talent was there. It doesn't matter that it's not exactly my style. Like some of it sounded maybe a bit like musicals or whatever, but it was very, very well done.
It's professional.
Yeah. So
It contrasted strongly that way with you too.
because
You
we'd
choose-
listened to U2 on the way to Dinosaur and then this on the way back. And we would have had a lot more time. Like I said, we listened to this more and we listened to the U2 more. So I could have actually brought more along, but I don't want to be changing things while I'm driving. I want to just be driving. So,
Folks, are you listening?
Went around
When
again.
you're changing stuff and
but
drinking and texting
I would
when
have
you're
had
driving.
to stop at a roadside
for bad
pullout,
people.
and I could have done that, but I didn't. We just listened to the stuff again, and maybe James was a bit bored. I don't know, but
With the Celtic stuff?
yeah,
I don't
I-
mind going through good stuff, Troy.
I wasn't
But,
bored at all. It was awesome.
The first thing you remarked on was the vocals, as I recall. And
Yeah.
they were in strong contrast to Bono's vocals.
Yeah, which he's
He's
great,
not bad.
but,
It's way worse.
So anyway, then, I don't know how to pronounce this. Sido Mayo, or I don't know.
It's probably
They
Irish.
have way too many letters in their words. I wrote down the
Oh.
stuff while I was watching it, right? But the stuff that I liked the most, right?
The Celtic
It
languages
translates
are
to the
so
wealthy
bad.
widow.
So bad.
There's so many
Sure.
extra letters in there. Why? But anyway, she moved through the fair, and Orinoco Flow, of course. Harry's game was awesome, and the Ashokan farewell / the contradiction, and the contradiction part of it, that got the audience going so much. They were clapping along, and they loved it, and so did I.
Yeah,
It was great.
on the downbeats. It's awesome hearing people,
Yeah.
not clapping anymore on the offbeat. You know, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. It sounds square, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2.
Yeah.
Whereas what people of rock and roll have been taught to do is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, and yeah, in the contradiction I put, oh boy, now I don't know how to pronounce her name because like I remember writing it down, she was saying it, and so Mareed maybe?
It's probably just Marie.
I don't know, danced with the drummers on stage. She was the fiddler,
Yeah.
violinist, and her mom's a fiddle player too. And that I was really interested watching the extras, the interviews with each of the. It says girls on here, which.
Okay.
That's
a little
the
late
director,
for that.
musical director, he called them girls too, and it's like, boy, oh boy.
That was kind of the 70s is when that
You
shit.
can't call women girls. I guess this was from 2004, but that's long ago enough to be calling. Yeah. So anyway, so what was I gonna put? I put Maeve's voice was amazing, but all of them had amazing voices. Orla's too, and she played the harp. Orla was the one who played the harp. And what's interesting is this woman here. Who is she? She was not in there. So they just put a picture of some redheaded woman here who's pretty, so that you're like, oh yeah, Celtic woman. She's not in there. Why is she on the cover? So if they wanted to have a red-headed woman, they could have put Orla on the cover. She has dark brown, reddish hair, right? But she's not on the cover here. She plays the harp. She's one of the women, not girls, because there's only one girl here who was 15. The rest are women, not girls. But whatever. I didn't actually like the hearing from the director that much. I liked hearing from the women and the one girl, or young lady, 15, you know. I don't know if she'd even want to be called a girl at 15. But anyway, the director, he was talking about how, I picked out some challenging stuff, and all of these girls rose to the challenge, or whatever he said, and he was impressed with how they pulled it off, or whatever. Oh yeah, they pulled it off. He wasn't
like 70 years old.
No, he was young.
Okay.
And honestly, I would say of the people all the performers, everyone, the director didn't rise to the challenge as much, because when James said this, and I was thinking it at the same time, when Orinoco Flow played, like, a lot of the time when I'd hear things, some of the things that I mentioned here, tears would come to my eyes. They were so well done. It was so beautiful. And then when Orinoco Flow came on, I actually cried. I cried while it was on. It was they did a good job. I don't think
there was any synthesizer stuff or anything like that.
No, it was all orchestra and them, and fantastic. So, like James has said, well, Orinoco Flow, is there anything to the lyrics? And I'm like, well, it's just about traveling and whatever, like going on the sea. It tends to be a listing. But it's you can feel it. The way that Enya composed Orinoco Flow, it's you can feel it's like you're on a boat and you're crashing over the wave. Well, and so it's awesome. Whether you like Enya or not, you have to respect that song. And so I'm glad that they did that. But James said when it was on, he said that should have been the closer. That should have been what they closed with. And I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, what are they going to follow this with? What can they possibly follow this with? Well, you
said it was, you figured it was the last one.
Yeah. Because on that one, the women are singing together. It's a big, the ensemble rest of them, it's separate, it's one does one song, one does another. So that one would have been great to end it with. And Then there was the Ashokan farewell / the contradiction. Well, that would have been great just before that. So you really get the audience stirred up. They were stirred up. They were clapping along. They loved it. They loved it. And then end it with Orinoco Flow, and wow, that audience, they would be up for an encore. You know, they want more. The way they ended up, they didn't do a good job. So that's my only complaint about this. This was amazing. Everybody who paid for tickets to go to this sold out concert got their money's worth, and I know they felt it. You could hear that they felt it. It's awesome. So now I guess James is going to talk about these others more. I'll mention the movies at the end.
You talk about those now. Okay.
You want me to talk about you too?
No. Talk about the ones at the bottom.
So, Silent Witness, I did enjoy watching this. This was season 24. I didn't have any major complaints about it or anything. I liked the series pretty well. So, this one is before the main Dr. Nikki Alexander. Before the main star, she gets together with the love interest. So this is, and what I found interesting in this season was she got involved a little bit with a younger man for a while, and it was actually believable. So had I watched this at the same time as that Bridget Jones Mad About the Boy thing, I would have been like, okay, this one worked, and Bridget Jones, that one didn't. You know, Bridget Jones, there wasn't chemistry there. I couldn't see why they would get together. This one, you can see they have shared interests, they have whatever, and this woman looks a lot younger than she is. She's stunningly beautiful. So you could see why a younger guy would go for her. That's not the issue either. But anyway, but this one, they made it seem believable that would happen, and it believable that how it ended up and all that. Right. So I thought they did an all right job there. It's just it maybe wasn't as interesting as some of the other stuff that we went through. That's all. And it's fiction. I'd rather the music than the TV show. Whatever.
That's a TV series.
Yeah. It's a
and
good
what's
TV series.
is it basically coroners?
Yeah, it's a police drama sort of thing. It's
But
sort of like
she's like a coroner.
she's a coroner. So anyway.
I just hear it going on in the background
Yeah.
when I'm trying to study Swedish or whatever.
So I didn't really have any problems with that show. Tesla with Ethan Hawke. Well, he doesn't look like Tesla.
Holy
He's
smokes,
not
that's
nearly
such
as
bad
handsome
Tesla.
as Tesla was, for one thing, and he just looks different. But
Well, Tesla looks kind of like Southeastern European. He's got dark skin, everything's dark about him, right? Ethan Hawke is kind of like almost blonde, isn't he? Anyway, just bad casting.
yeah.
Now, what's the acting like?
So the woman Eve Hewson, who plays Anne in this, she's supposed to be friends. She wants to have a love connection with Tesla, but it's not working out for her. But still, she's kind of friends with him, and she knows him and whatever. And it's really a story about Tesla's connection to Edison, and how Anne is like a Tesla groupie, right? She really wants to be with him, but it's not working out for her. And so she's the daughter of a wealthy guy who ends up funding some of Tesla's work and stuff like that. But so she's saying, if you look on, they're trying to modernize the story a bit. So they have things like the woman that Tesla is interested in, who's an actress, who he never really gets with her either, but they have music playing, like I don't know, nightclub sort of music or something like that when she's walking up. Like it's like
Was it jazz?
No, like it's supposed to be modernized, so it's supposed to be like a dance club or some kind of music. Well, she's
It wasn't techno, was
it's supposed to be modernized, sort of like
it?
that.
Well, I
They're
didn't
trying to make it
realize that.
feel like that. And so they have them in the older costumes and everything like that
Right.
and making these discoveries. But they have this woman, Anne, she'll turn to the camera and she's like, there's only 4 photos of Tesla that have been, sometimes they've been manipulated digitally or whatever to look a bit different or this or that. But if you look on the internet, you'll really only find 4 photos of him. Whereas if you look up Edison, you'll find so much about him and whatever. And she's basically saying that's not deserved, right? It should have been Tesla who had more fame or whatever. Um,
I think way more.
yeah.
Now, there's
So,
another guy whose name has been preserved. I heard Westinghouse. Was it George Westinghouse? You know how
yeah.
Westinghouse is still a name to be there? It's like an appliance thing or whatever.
Oh.
That would come from him.
So anyway, so you're um, a lot of the time she'll have modern references like that. Although she's a character she's in this story, way back when. So they're trying to make it seem more, I guess, relatable by doing
Accessible.
that, right? But this, there could have been a lot more. They could have made a lot of other twists and whatever that they didn't. They could have focused on like the Martian communication thing a little bit more. That would have been a little more interesting, or whatever. But they didn't. So I was disappointed. I when I saw the previews for this when watching other movies, I was like, oh, I can't wait to see that. And so that might have made it why this went on the bottom of the stack, because I was expecting a lot and I didn't get it. So I don't know. Now go ahead and talk about U2 and Bruce
I
Springsteen.
want to talk a little
Oh,
bit about that. I don't
okay.
know why they're trying to make it more accessible. I guess people really don't have much of a scientific background. But this stuff is still, I mean, he was basically talking about using, what I can tell, the Earth's electromagnetic field to produce energy, without, it's still relevant perhaps. I don't know. Science has had a real problem with electricity. Like electricity actually it derives from the Greek word for amber. You don't believe me? Check it up. If you don't want to check it up, then I don't have much use for you. But so the Greeks knew about electricity. They'd know about static electricity. And, like Isaac Newton was doing his stuff with mass and with gravity and stuff like that. He died 1727. That's almost 300 years ago. And it wasn't until roughly 100 years later, maybe a little less, that guys like Faraday started doing work with electricity. Then about 1860 maybe, James Clerk Maxwell, is spelled Clerk, but Clerk Maxwell. He came up with some laws about electromagnetism and stuff like that. Then things got into a real rut, and they couldn't figure out what. Well, it goes back actually to Newton, apparently, maybe even earlier. But Newton had this idea of the thing that carries light is called ether, and it's fixed in space. Why would you come up with a stupid conception like that? That ether, the thing that carries light, it's just like nebulous. There's no, not even nebulous. Nebulous is it's a cloud-like, but it's not there, but it's there, and it's fixed in space. It's the one thing that's fixed. Why would you have that? In other words, you'd be able to find some place where it's like, you know how you have graphs like 0,
Yeah.
like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, minus. You'd be able to find one place fixed, and everything else would be fixed with reference to the ether. It's just a stupid concept. So then Einstein comes, well, some guys, Michelson and Morley, spelled Michelson, but Michelson, I think, Americans, they're saying, we can't detect any ether. No spit, because it doesn't exist. So then Einstein comes along about 20 years after them, maybe 15 years, more like 20 perhaps. And he says, well, we're just going to chuck out this concept of ether. Therefore, there's nothing to carry light as a medium. And light has to be a particle. And guess what? We'll go back to this wonderful guy, Isaac Newton, who had this idea that light was a particle. But, you know, it is a wave, because about 100 years before Einstein started talking about this, maybe 105, Thomas Young proved, apparently, using an experiment or experiments, that light was a wave. So Einstein comes up with this brilliant concept. It's both a light and a wave. No, that's
Particle.
medieval thinking. It's magical thinking. It's either one or the other. That's like saying, it's not quite as bad, that God is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. That's what I mean by medieval thinking. It's got to be one or the other. If you can't, if you're, you as a scientist, you've got to come up with a test to prove it's one thing or another. Now, it's the guy who was way better than Einstein. They both won Nobel Prizes. Was a guy called Alfred, who won the Nobel Prize significantly later, maybe 50 years later, than Albert Einstein. And he was considerably younger. Einstein, I think, died 1955. I don't know how long Alfred. He won his Nobel Prize 71. I don't know how old he was when he died or when he died. But he was the one who was saying, yeah, for a charged particle of light, so a charged particle moving through a vacuum is like moving through syrup. Huh? This is like moving through a vacuum, like outer space or in a vacuum tube. There's nothing there to slow something down. But there is. I knew that it would be something like electromagnetism. I got a physicist to figure it out. He didn't know what he was figuring out. 5 minutes?
1 minute and a half.
1 minute. He didn't know what he was figuring out. I just asked him, is it true that for a charged particle moving through a vacuum, it's like moving through syrup? Oh, yeah. Then I said, what's slowing it down? Because what's slowing down the air here is what's the medium is, or what's slowing down the sound. It's the medium for sound. And he just shrugged and he said, magnetic fields. And they haven't figured that out. It's magnetic fields. He figured it out, but I'm the one who, he didn't really figure it out. I got him to figure it out for me. I'm the one who figured it out, folks.
All right, so you have a minute.
Okay, magnetic fields. If people had followed up on Tesla, instead of sticking with this idiot Thomas Alva Einstein, or whatever his name is,
Edison? What are you talking about?
Thomas Alva Edison. Yeah, I'm
Tired. I
I
know.
just woke up and had a big walk. You know, like they'd be much farther along, but they're really uncomfortable with electromagnetism. It's just too magical. Well, get used to it. You cannot see magnetic field lines, and they aren't lines, but they're envelopes, and they actually exist. Huh? That's enough for now.